Alrighty, good evening, everybody. Put my agenda up there for my reference. Greetings and good evening this fine Monday evening, and it is, according to my clock, 8:16 p.m. on Monday, April 12th, 2021. And Alec Boehm still has not touched home plate at Truist Field, or Truist Park. So, I don't know how many of y'all have seen the Naked Gun movies, but it does kind of remind me of the scene where Lieutenant Frank Drebin, played by the wonderful Leslie Nielsen, officiating a baseball game, and one of the players was sliding into home plate and was off by, I swear, the same amount. So obviously that was just a gag, but apparently the Major League Baseball umpires apparently they just need a new vision plan. So maybe VSP or somebody can sponsor the umpires, or LensCrafts or somebody, please, uh, doing the reviews and everything up in New York, um, taking care of them for, getting some sort of better calls or something, because that was bad. Admittedly, I didn't watch the game last night. I was kind of tired after our infrastructure weekend for work this weekend, which uh, had some major large databases to rebalance, and uh, up for a while, um, getting those done. So, but anyway, hope everybody's having a good evening. I was out last week because I had my son all week last week, so The plan is for the time being to do these on Monday evenings. I don't have a set time yet, but I am trying something a little different. I know the first time I was going to do this, uh, I had planned on doing it on PeerTube, but um, still have not found an easy way to do that. But I still am streaming on YouTube and simulcasting actually across YouTube. Uh, oh, I think I might accidentally close one of my. Let me go back to my dashboard on Restream. Oh, I just killed my stream. Okay, I think I'm back. I accidentally closed one of my Restream service by accident, and so the intent is to be across. Well, I'm gonna have to double check. Oops, that's the wrong button. So y'all bear with me. Let me just pop in over to one of these guys. So I think I am back up. Anyway, okay. So as I was saying, had planned on doing this on PeerTube, which is part of the Fediverse, and I went into that last week because probably a lot of folks may not understand what that is, and that's okay. Um, but my plan is to kind of be across different platforms because I have friends across different platforms, and be nice for people to chime in every once in a while and say hello if they want to. Let's see. I know. So I am currently on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. So that was a roundabout way of getting to that, right? I know. So there was actually one thing that I had planned on talking about last time, but I ran out of time. Self-imposed time, I guess you could say. Um, I'd wanted to talk about bulletin board services. I remember back in the early '90s when I was a young kid. Actually, no, not much older than my son. I guess is probably about 6 or 7. Um, my family had gotten a computer. My dad had gotten an Acer Acros, I think, 486. And one of the things, I think this was right along, I mean, it was 92. The web, was basically invented in 93. But I do have, uh, uh, I recall times where he would dial up to different bulletin board services around Chattanooga, download demo software, games that I would play. And you know, I remember vaguely, and then the World Wide Web became a thing, and bulletin board services kind of died out. And I think my cat is getting into something back uh, back behind the counter, but at any rate, the whole thing of bulletin board services, I guess, actually kind of went went on with you know like I said, seemed like it kind of died out with the uh, advent of the World Wide Web and things like that. But there has been, I mean, it's never really died out. I mean, they've kind of transitioned. A lot of them have transitioned over from just straight dial-up to telnet or secure shell services. So you just get, bring up your terminal if you have one. Windows, it's a little bit harder, but I think PowerShell, uh, I, I'm pretty sure, well, I know there is um, a Telnet client, or actually there's a really good ANSI client called SyncTerm. I think the folks who create the what is it? Synchronet, I think it is, bulletin board software. I think they maintain that project and everything. It's really good, and it really does a good job of displaying uh, ANSI art and ANSI graphics and things like that on most platforms. Admittedly, I do actually have an external USB modem on my Mac Mini that I actually am using Serial too. It's I probably could use Minicom. I know that's the open source uh, uh, terminal application. I used it on my Pi 400 and it works decently. It has trouble with ANSI graphics. It doesn't really do a great job, but you can kind of muddle through it. But Serial 2 does seem like it does do, what is it? Code page 497, I think it is. Um, uh, which is what it seems like what was used with MS, Microsoft Windows, back in the early 90s, late 80s, things like that. So there's been a little bit of a resurgence with bulletin board services. It's more kind of a niche, whatever you want to say, for retro type folks who just kind of want to, I guess, like an alternative to social net. I mean, it was social networking before it kind of had a name, in through the auspices of Facebook and Twitter and everything else. But it's really kind of interesting. I think most folks like the door game, what they call the door games. Some of them are text based. Uh, I think some of them are multiplayer games. I think probably some host Doom, maybe not servers, but I think there's some sort of like Doom matching or multiplayer matching things like that. Um, but there's obviously bulletin boards on there. There's demos, some of them from way back when, were like archives of older, you know, demos and ANSI art projects and things like that to kind of get an exploration of different things. So it's not hard to get on to. Um, there are websites out there that actually do still have some semblance of, well, I shouldn't say some semblance. So what I mean, they actually do have listings of active bulletin board services. Now, granted, some these these are like the same type of folks that probably ran them in the 80s, except they charged you a user fee to for so many minutes, a month or however long their terms were to access their equipment, and equipment costs money, as well as phone lines and hard drive space, things like that. Storage is not as expensive, but it's still an expense. Uh, Generally nowadays, I guess most I've never set one up, contemplated it, but haven't really wanted to, I guess you could say. Um, but I guess what I was kind of hinting at was, some bulletin boards are actually very well maintained. There are others that tend to go down and may have to have a hard reset where you have to sign back up for your user account, and all the messages may not be recovered. And some may be up one day and may be gone the next, and they may never come back. Again, these are kind of like I keep saying projects, but I mean, that is kind of what they are. They are projects. It's people doing these things on the side, kind of a hobby, uh, if you like to say. So, um, definitely, if you, I'm pretty sure if you go to DuckDuckGo, because I've done this, Google too, just search for BBS listings, and I think BBS.guide comes up. Telnet, I can never remember the web address for that one. But it does pretty well. It's the user. There's, I'd say, a smaller user base, but you can get to, some of them do host multi-board uh, bulletin board systems like FidoNet, and um, it's kind of like the use. I think it does access Usenet. I'm not really all that familiar with the ins and outs of it, but it it's definitely an interesting, uh, actually quite an interesting little world. Outside of the what we would consider the traditional internet, which is really the World Wide Web, but everybody calls it the internet. But the I didn't get time to talk about it last weekend, or last not week, two last time I streamed 2 weeks ago. Um, but the bulletin board system is really how I found SDF, and SDF got me into things there with projects and voice over IP, um, which I do like, actually like hanging out on there on Open VoIP. I might try to do that tonight. I might live stream it, maybe. Um, Depending on setting it up and actually wanting to do it and all that good stuff. So if there's a bonus episode, we'll see. I may just stream that on Twitch because, maybe I can get a few get a few folks from Facebook, since that's probably the dominant place for where my uh, current viewers are watching. So, all according to this, all two of you. So, but it, like I said, they actually, I I remember reading a post from somebody, and I can't remember if it was from the House of Lunduke, which is currently down. He's one of the uh, his bulletin board system tends to go through phases of being up for a while and then being down for a while, and then I guess when he has time, he'll redo it and kick it back on and stuff like that. But anyway, I remember seeing somebody talking about Gopher, and I remember, when I was younger, and I think maybe in college there was like a short paragraph about Gopher, the Gopher protocol, that was kind of an alternative slash, not really alternative, but kind of, sort of. It was a way of basically browsing text files across the internet. I mean, it wasn't really fancy. Um, Obviously, with the World Wide Web and hypertext markup, or hypertext transfer protocol, hypertext can let you create a little bit more prettier interconnected text files, so to speak. And that has evolved into the web that we have today. And so um, I thought, okay, well, it's 2020. I'm not really doing anything. So let's I just started kind of browsing around Gopher, and it's like, okay, well, cool. Maybe I can create one. Created my SDF account and got into that, and so had really started to uh, check out a lot of that. So that was, I guess, my kind of my story about ending up on SDF and, and hang out there. There are really good folks who are really knowledgeable, um, which incidentally leads me into my next topic about Plan 9, which I don't really know much about. Um, I do know that uh, for those who may not know, Unix was created by Bell Laboratories back in the 1970s, probably even in development in the early, or I'm sorry, and probably in the 1960s, but really saw um, adoption and growth in the 70s. Uh, Linux is based, it's basically open source version of Unix. Probably lying to you a little bit. I'm sure some ardent Unix and Linux folks will probably say, no, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. It's nothing like that. So, but Plan 9 was created as a research project in Bell Labs, I think in the 1980s into the 90s. Um, Basically, kind of taking uh, the principles of Unix and kind of going back to its roots, and also understanding that a graphical user interface is kind of the way forward for interacting with um, computers. And you can see my dog Max getting comfortable on the couch. So anyway, Unix and Plan 9. Actually, one of the things that is I think is pretty cool is SDF does actually host a Plan 9 boot camp quarterly, and it's a I mean it's an act I mean it is a fully functional operating system. It's a project. I mean, it is a project operating system. I mean, I think documentation that I've read is basically it's a research operating system. You try new it's a sandbox. You try proofs of concept, the try that again. Proofs of concept. There we go. Uh, in it, and try different things that might help or that might work in the future. And so um, I think some of the base tools had been ported off to some of the BSD um, uh, flavors. I think Mac OS 10 probably, and now probably Mac OS probably has some tooling. Some of the tools that Plan 9 uses. Um, but it's been haven't really gotten into the meat of it. I know SMJ over on SDF has been doing a really good job, and I need to catch up because I am behind on his what he's terming T talks um, that have been going through and kind of talking about how to use Plan 9 and the different applications in Plan 9. It's not, I'm sure there are some folks that would probably try to use it as a daily driver. It doesn't look like it would be, unless you just absolutely want to for the bragging rights. I don't think I would necessarily do that in my personal opinion, but to each his own. You can install it and and try it. there's documentation out there. Um, I think we're using the Nine Front project for for the instance on SDF for the boot camp, and so that's maybe I'll talk about a little bit more, things like that next time. So, um, what else do we want to chat about? Because I'm actually at the bottom of my agenda today. How about that? Um, so I know this week, um, it's been or this past week has been kind of interesting. Car wise, been having to make some decisions about my transportation. Everything's working out fine, but definitely having an older car is kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. So, uh, been considering different options there. Went to the dentist today, so actually found out, and I'm sure that they probably sent a message out earlier in the month. Actually, probably late last year because I think they moved, or the my dental hygienist said that they were moving, or they had moved in December of last year. So I probably saw the email and probably thought, oh, I probably need to remember that the next time when when my appointment is, whenever that is. And I didn't realize that my appointment was this actually was supposed to be last Monday, but since I was going to be with my son or have my son with me, I did not want to go to the dentist during that week, so I pushed it back to this week. So everything went well. Um, had fluoride painted on my teeth for the second time. It's kind of a weird sensation. It dries on your teeth. It kind of has a strange texture. Can't eat or drink about a half an hour after it's been applied, but it's not too bad. Nice to have a little extra help in protecting my teeth. Like to have them around for a while, and then I think I start on call Monday. No, on Wednesday. Today's Monday. Start on call on Wednesday. Next Monday, that's probably what I was thinking about. Next Monday might be a little hectic depending on uh, how busy on call is. Hopefully, it's not. Hopefully, knock on wood. It's okay, Max. Thought somebody was at the door. Um, it's you know, it's just one of those things. On call isn't fun, but it's part of my job, and you know, I'm happy to do my job. And uh, hopefully, as and we're looking at automation for some tasks, um, especially on the mainframe. There is a lot of manual stuff to do on on the mainframe, and especially in IMS is just what I primarily deal with. So one of the projects that I've been assigned to is looking at Ansible for because there is a you can I think I might mention this before. You can use Ansible on the mainframe, which is great, I think, because there are scripts that have been written over the years, mainly C lists and Rex, and now there's Python. So probably start leveraging some Python scripts to interact with ZOS and some data sets and things like that, and hopefully might try to see what we can do to enable a more streamlined um, way of doing DBD generation, because in IMS creating databases is not necessarily as simple. Okay, you can do it sort of kind of using SQL if your shop is set up the way that it needs to be, but at least with Ansible, you can create a playbook that it's a top-down script. So you can start from the top and work your way down, and you can run JCL, which is basically the script, kind of the scripting glue that holds things together. To run the utility jobs to build the data, build the database structure, perform the gens for the PSBs, which are, if you're familiar with DB2, the plans, um, the access, or that basically say these programs can access these databases and these particular segments. And so if we can get to something that's a little more automated, push button, whatever buzzword you want to say. Basically, I don't want to be up at, what I would like to see is I don't have to be up at 3 a.m. watching jobs complete. I hope we can get to a point to where we can uh, have it set up to where it's scheduled to run whenever we can pause transactions and let it take the database down temporarily when it needs to do its thing. So interesting stuff, and that's the good thing about, at least I think, that IBM's doing with modernization on the mainframe is they're they're opening it up to open standards and using existing uh, open source software. It's kind of bleeding edge, which means installing it is kind of iffy. Um, Once you get the prereqs, you get it all set up, great, and then you run into something else, and you got to figure that out. And then once you get to that kind of get to that point, it's like, okay, great, now we have it installed in our sandbox. Can we deploy it into the dev environment? You set it, you go through the gyrations of doing that, and then you run into other roadblocks and obstacles, and you have to work your way around through that. But that's, I mean, realistically, that's IT in general. You have to figure out the problems and get it deployed. So probably more stuff to come about that. I am in no way an Ansible expert, but it does look, I will have to say, YAML files look a lot neater than JSON. And I like JSON because JSON is a lot neater than XML, and I don't like XML. So anyway, let's see, it is 8:47, so I think I am going to sign off for tonight. Good talking to y'all. And I know hopefully most of y'all see Max there in the background. He's snoozing. This is about as excited as he gets when I'm home. He is actually a little bit more exciting when I get back home if I don't take him somewhere. But this is usually Max's normal energy. So he's a good dog. So we will talk to y'all next week. See y'all soon.